I'd like to welcome everyone to our Big Lake Political Candidates Forum. Thank you so much for attending. We are trying a live Zoom link. I did hear from one of my board members that was working earlier. I just hope and pray that it keeps going. And otherwise, we do have a recording, so you'll be able to watch it at a later point if you weren't able to be here. I'm Gloria Vandebrake, the Executive Director of the Big Lake Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And at this time, I would like us all to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator, is Kevin Thompson. He is the owner of Data Success. He has two locations, one in Big Lake and one in Wilmer. He moderated our forum 4 years ago, did an excellent job, and we're glad that he's back.
Let's check 1, 2. Are we on? Test, mic test, 1, 2, 3, 4. Test, check 1, 2. Test, check 1, 2, 3, 4. Mic test, 1, 2. Okay, we'll get this up a little bit. Test, check 1, 2. Mic test, 1, 2, 3, 4. Test, check. Okay. Thank you, Gloria, and to the Big Lake Chamber of Commerce and Industry for inviting me to moderate the 2020 Political Candidates Forum. Tonight, we will be hearing from candidates running for U.S. Congress, Minnesota Senate, Minnesota House of Representatives, the Big Lake City Council and Mayor, the Big Lake School Board, and the Big Lake Township. The candidates will be addressing questions on a variety of issues that affect our community. It is our hope that their statements and responses will help you to make an informed decision in this upcoming election on Tuesday, November 3rd. Now on to the rules of the forum. During the forum, each candidate will be allowed 30 seconds to introduce him or herself and another minute to identify their priorities for that office. Each race will be addressed separately. Candidates are seated in random order and will answer questions in a rotating order. We have a timer in the front row. Thank you. For the front row of the audience, Brad and Sue Johnson, volunteers with the Friends of the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge. Thank you. That will be using a stopwatch to time each response and will hold up a card at 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, remaining, and time up or stop. No questions other than the first two intro questions and the closing question were intentionally released to the candidates prior to the forum. Questions will be taken from those previously submitted by chamber members, from citizens prior to tonight, and also from questions submitted during the forum. Forum attendees are asked to only submit questions that address a specific race, not a specific candidate. If an audience member has a question during the forum, they will be required to write their question on the designated form and hold it up for a runner to collect. Our runners are in the auditorium aisles, so please raise your hand if you have a question you would like them to pick up. All questions will be reviewed by members of the Chamber of Commerce Governmental Affairs Committee or staff before being presented to the moderator. For introductions, I will introduce to the candidates using their full official title of their office, if they currently hold one. After the initial introduction, all candidates will be addressed by their first name in an effort to prevent biasing anyone with an existing office title. The order of the forum will be as follows. Minnesota Representative District 30A, roughly 6:30 to 6:45. Minnesota Senate District 30, 6:50 to 7:05. Big Lake City Council, 7:10 to 7:35. Big Lake Mayor, 7:40 to 7:55. Big Lake School Board, 8 p.m. to 8:25. Big Lake Township, 8:30 to 8:55, and U.S. Congressional District 6, 9 to 9:10. Tonight's forum is being videotaped by the Sherburne Wright Cable Commission and will air on the local access City of Big Lake channel 180. The forum will also be available for viewing on the Chamber website, www.biglakechamber.com. We are hosting this live tonight via Zoom. The link is available to access on the Chamber Facebook page and on the website. At this point, I would like to invite the first panel to the stage. Please welcome Please welcome Chad HOBOT and Paul Novotny, running for Minnesota House of Representatives, District 38. Senate House District 38 boundaries include the entire boundary of the city of Big Lake, all but the most northern section of Big Lake Township, east into the city of Elk River, and slightly into the city of Otsego. The remainder of the southern border follows the Mississippi River. Welcome. For 30 seconds, briefly summarize your personal background and experiences and why you are running for the office of state representative.
My name is Paul Novotny. I was born and raised in Elk River, raised on a farm, and I grew up. I'm a married father of 2 adult children. I was elected to the House of Representatives in a special election in February of 2020. And then in May of 2020, I retired after over 30 years with the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office, retiring as a patrol officer, patrol sergeant. I'm currently serving on the Public Safety and Corrections subcommittees at the state, and I'm on an advisory board for police excellence and community relations. Thank you.
Check. Hi, my name is Chad HOBOT. I'm a small business owner in Elk River. When I'm not working, I enjoy volunteering at church. I love muskie fishing and turkey hunting and deer hunting. I've been a youth hockey and football coach in Elk River and a past president of the JCs. I'm running to focus on creating jobs and economic development in our area and keep our kids, families, and co-workers safe during COVID. I believe that this is not an either or choice. I believe we can do both simultaneously.
All right, thank you. For 60 seconds, what would your top 2 or 3 priorities as Minnesota House Representative serving the Big Lake area be? Chad?
Thank you. I believe that our state government needs to pursue budgets, policies, investments, and incentives that produce both these, get our economy moving again and keeping our families and coworkers safe during COVID. By following common sense and flexible guidelines like wearing face covers and social distancing in public, we can do this, and I get it. But it's imperative that we work together. And I feel that party line legislators do not get it. After 5 special legislative sessions, Mr. Novotny voted against the bonding bill to protest the governor's effort to keep us safe during COVID. And we should never play political games with our public health and economy and creating jobs. And we need to fix our roads, and we need that economic stimulus. So I'm running against gridlock, I'm running for common sense, and I'm running to call balls and strikes. I ask for your support, Big Lake.
All right, thank you. Paul?
Thank you. My 3 top priorities are going to be reducing the size of state government, public safety, and the state's safe recovering from COVID-19. Now, I did vote against the bonding bill 5 times because the first bonding bill came in at over $3 billion. I voted against the last bonding bill because it was still over $1.5 billion. In looking through the state budget, there was approximately $150 million worth of fat that I would have eliminated given the chance. And yeah, I think it's important. We're looking at a $4 to $5 billion budget surplus in the next biennium. That's going to have to be made up somewhere. Everything that we spend now is going to have to be made up in a different way. For public safety, we have a great sheriff's office, a great police department here in Sherburne County. I think everybody in the state deserves that level of service, and through my work on the committees, I hope to keep helping improving that.
All right, thank you. Next question, with significant state expenditures toward COVID prevention these last 7 months, our state management and budget office has projected a $2.4 billion deficit for the 2021 biennium ending, or next year ending next July, and another 4.7 deficit for the next 2-year budget. This comes from a $1.5 billion surplus budget last February. For the next 90 seconds, describe your thoughts on how to balance the budget next year and beyond. Paul, please.
Well, I think we need to maintain our core services, and we're going to have to prioritize as a state what our core services are. We're going to need to make sure that we take care of the most vulnerable among us. We're going to have to make sure that schools stay funded, and we need to take care of roads and bridges. There will be extremely difficult decisions that are going to have to be made, but we have to understand the numbers are going to be at least a 10% cut. A 10% cut, if we run the state like you would run your family budget, you would have to make some serious decisions and some serious analyzing of what's important and what's not important to you. Tying it into the bonding, we were spending money on bonding for things that we already have or to replace things that we don't need. If we're going to keep the focus on protecting the vulnerable and doing the things that the state's core values are, we're going to have to make those hard decisions, and it would have been a lot better to make the decisions now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeff?
Thank you. I think if we speak honestly about the budget, we can't reduce spending solely by cutting expenses with the Department of Human Services. We have to look at those core services, but we also, to be responsible leaders, have to talk about ways of raising revenue, to strike a balance between both of those aspects of it. And there's going to be tough priorities. And one of the biggest priorities that concerns me the most, and that as we think through that, will be healthcare and education. And for education, since early spring, I've consulted with teachers, superintendents, staff, and parents to learn the needs of ISD 728 and 727 during COVID. And while there are some success stories, especially in the distance learning, access to mental health services is one area we need to reinvent during the era of COVID. In District 728, I had the conversation with Dr. Bittman, and he said that at any point in time, there's 14,000 students in that side of the district. And there's 10% of those students that are going through some type of mental health crisis. And we have to make sure that we don't leave them behind and they don't fall through the cracks. And distance learning is not, they need face-to-face contact somehow. So we have to figure out a way to reinvent ourselves in that sense. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Some of our businesses, particularly our restaurants, bars, and those forced to close for a period of time, are hurting financially with restrictions placed on them by the governor's executive orders to stem the spread of the coronavirus. For the next 60 seconds, now that our fall season is getting colder and customers don't want to be outside in the cold on the patios, would you support expanding the capacity of restaurants and bars to 75% so that they can continue to profit? Why or why not? Jeff?
I would like to, that question I think is best handled by the scientists and the professional health professionals in our state. And I think that they can advise us to the best capacity issues percentage-wise when we have cases going up. But as of today, we've had 2,282 deaths from COVID in our state. By comparison, in 2019, we had 314 traffic accident deaths in our state. So this is definitely something different that we're dealing with. But I do believe that there's opportunities to keep businesses open if we just practice social responsibility. safe distancing, wear your mask. Don't watch bad examples of CDC guidelines on TV. Follow your heart, and we can keep businesses open. And I do also believe that the EDA can look at giving it economic development incentives to help businesses retool, recalibrate, and rebuild.
Thank you. So I would not go with the 75% straight across the board limit. I would leave it up to the business to comply with the CDC guidelines, and the one-size-fits-all state mandate from St. Paul, how a business or a cafe in Faribault or Big Lake is different in the layout than the people in Embarrass, Minnesota. So many things that the state does in the current emergency order mandates are one-size-fits-all, and I think if we came together and let, for example, local school districts make more of their decisions on the school district level, they know what's best for them. Then just like the cafe and restaurants owners know what's best for them, and none of these restaurants owners want their help or their employees or their customers to get sick. They're going to do what's best, and I trust them.
Okay, thank you both. Health and Human Services is the largest expenditure of our state budget in 2021, and yet employment and day services for adults with disabilities, such as options in Big Lake, wasn't granted operating funds for 6 months and now only a minimal amount. For the next minute, can you share any thoughts on this issue and on health and the Health and Human Services budget? Paul?
Yes, specifically with options, I was enraged at the way the programs, including options, were treated by the state and the governor's office. They were holding up and blackmailing the House with money for the adult day use centers to throw it into big omnibus bills. I did sponsor a bill to get the funding. We ended up using the Senate's identical bill, but I did sponsor that funding and think that the options is one of that vulnerable crew that we need to support.
I support options. I actually got to tour their facility before COVID, and I think that when we talk about the most vulnerable in our society, I talked briefly about that in the education comment I made before, but when we retool this budget, we have to make sure that the critical services to these types of organizations does not get left behind. And I didn't see anything being held hostage. I think there's in all honesty, we have a divided government right now. And so we got to stop pointing fingers of suspicion. We got to start working together to get results to make sure that options can thrive.
All right, thank you. K-12 education is the second largest expenditure of the state budget in 2021. And now with COVID-19 precautions, schools face additional expenses with hybrid learning, less students in the classrooms and more teachers, more buses transporting less students per bus, and increased technology devices and software. For the next minute, what can the state do to help school districts teach our children?
Well, as I touched on before, I think the state needs to let the school districts and the school board is an elected panel, and they've got great insight into their local needs and their local budgets and what their facilities are and what they have. So I think that's one way that the state could get out of the way and let the elected people that are doing the job specifically in those school districts do that. I think we need to work on infrastructure and getting more cable, more internet, broadband. That's really been an issue for a lot of people. I know Big Lake with the Windstream, they struggle. It's something I think we should have fiber throughout the state, and I think the state should help with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think our state, we'll have to balance the budget for education, but mental health is one area that we, like I mentioned before, that we have to make sure that we don't leave those students falling through the cracks, because distance learning is not enough for them to get the special ed students in particular need to have the in-person contact with their teachers. But I do believe that maybe the answer is not increasing the education budget during COVID. Maybe the idea is to recalibrate. And so maybe there are some investments that have to have to happen in order to recalibrate, but once the recalibration is done, we'll be able to meet those needs that we have to meet moving forward.
Okay, thank you. And I'll take responsibility, Paul, you kicked off that one, it was actually Chad, so we're gonna let him start the next two.
Perfect.
Real quick, for 30 seconds, Chad, this starts with you. What can you as a state representative do to help create new employment opportunities in Big Lake?
Well, we know that Sherco, unfortunately, at some point is going to close. And so one of the things that was a great hope in the bonding bill was to get the redevelopment up in Becker going. And I guess I just disagree completely with Mr. Novotny on this point. We needed that stimulus to get the economy going again. One area we could spur growth is we have tax opportunity zones. One is actually in northern Sherburne County by on the border of St. Cloud, and I think we can get more tax opportunity zones to encourage business to come here and invest like Google.
30 seconds?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. I supported the Becker Industrial Park. I consider that a jobs program. I consider that one of the legitimate uses of bonding in the state. And I'll give you what it is. Buying a police department for the city of Crystal is something I don't support, and that's what I'm referring to when I say there's fat in the budget. So I did support and did sign on to the Becker Industrial Park, and there are several other job-creating, regionally effective things and that's what bonding is for. Thank you.
Okay, good. And Chad, we're gonna have you start this one again, just be fair. So for your last minute, why are you the best candidate for this office? And is there something else you want to tell us about yourself or your views?
Thank you. Again, my name is Chad HOBOT. I feel that party line legislators only care about scoring points for the people that they huddle with. And I'm interested in building relationships and partnerships in the Minnesota House of Representatives to win for everyone. I don't have all the answers, but I do know it is critical to get our economy moving again, creating jobs and economic development, and keeping our kids, families, coworkers safe by following common sense guidelines. We can do both of these simultaneously. I'm not interested in this job as a career, but I am committed to giving all that I have to get results for Big Lake. I believe in calling balls and strikes. It doesn't matter to me if a good idea is pitched by a Republican or a Democrat or anyone else. But I do feel that it does matter to Paul Novotny. I'm running against gridlock. I'm running for common sense. If there's something good for Big Lake, like the bonding bill, I'm going to take a swing at it. My name is Chad HOBOT, and I ask for your vote, Big Lake.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting the event. Gloria, thank you for putting this all together. I know you put a lot of work into this. I'd like to thank the school district for the use of this fine facility. More importantly, I'd like to thank the public that took their time out and was willing to come inside and wear a mask and sit through this. It's an important decision on who represents you, and I hope we've helped create some separation so you know who to vote for. During my first term at the state, it was very hard. We went through a lot of decisions and had a lot of long committee meetings. But during that time, I've sponsored legislation to improve public safety, police training reform, funding for adult day use centers like options, freeway protest crimes, bail reform, the highway improvement bonding. It's been an honor to serve the area for 30 years as Sheriff's Office employee, and I continue to serve the county and the area in my current position. It's been an honor. Thank you.
All right, that wraps up this section of our debate. Thank you both very much. next race will be Minnesota Senate District 30. For Minnesota Senate District 30, please welcome Mary KIFFMEYER and Diane Wynn for our second panel. Minnesota Senate District 30 includes parts of Sherburne and Wright County, including Big Lake, Elk River, St. Michael, Albertville, Hanover, and Otsego. For 30 seconds, briefly summarize your personal background and experiences and why you are running for the office of State Senator. Diane?
Thank you very much. Glad to be with you this evening. My name is Mary KIFFMEYER. I'm a former registered nurse and hospital district board member for Monticello Big Lake. I'm married to my handsome husband, Ralph KIFFMEYER. We've raised 4 children in Big Lake Township, where we've lived for over 30 years, and we have 16 grandchildren. I've worked very hard to represent this district, very proud and honored to have represented Big Lake over the last years. And it is a great town, a growing town, and much appreciate all of you being here tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Diane?
Hi, I'm Diane Wynn, and I'm running to be our new Minnesota State Senator for a District for Change, for my son, my family, and for our democracy. I have volunteered and worked statewide to local campaigns, most recently won the special election campaign for 30A. I'm an outreach officer for SD30, a delegate for SD30, and a Biden-Harris lawn sign coordinator, help voice their support for a new president instead of fear and threaten for who those they want to elect.
All right, thank you very much. For 60 seconds, what would your top 2 or 3 priorities as Minnesota State Senator serving Big Lake area be? And we'll start with Diane.
I don't have one or many, but I'm going to speak really fast because I only have 1 minute late. Paul, welcome. My priorities are many, from supporting our police officers, first responders, health workers, small business and retail workers, to farmers and labor unions. I want to commend the Big Lake Police Department for being a positive reinforcement in how police departments and officers should emulate. Chief Hayden posts positive community support and crime transparency to alert community and Big Lake residents. He was even willing to do a ride-up with me. I want to increase education funding for pre-K, our special needs students and families, therapists for children's mental health that is affecting 11% of our students in District 728. Funds for our teachers to be licensed educators, funds for childcare, 24/7 daycare centers to help parents get back to work. And lastly, local jobs right here in our district, and stimulating the economy as the bonding bill was finally passed last week and was held as political leverage by the Republican leaders in our Senate and our House. While ready-to-go projects were put on hold, like the Albertville wastewater treatment plant. Our families can't afford leaders that cannot work together, while Minnesotans are struggling for money, small business owners.
Thank you, Diane.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And Mary?
Thank you very much for that question. You know, I would say on the minds of people right now is safety. They want safety through a strong police, fire, first responders. Big Lake has one of the best police departments in the entire state, and they are really working hard to keep us safe, and that's one of the first things that will be on my agenda, is to be sure that we protect them while they protect us. Secondly, they want safety in regards to their health. We have great health care here in Minnesota. We're very proud of that. We also need to be sure, though, that health in regards to COVID, that at the same time we won't destroy the health of our economy. We can trust our people to know to do the right thing, to look out for each other and look out for our health. The other 3 things, though, are roads and bridges. Very important. That's what we all get to work on, and our needs are met. equity in education funding, continue my work on that, and also pro-job growth policies such as lower taxes and limited government spending.
All right, thank you for that. Diane, will you please pull that microphone closer to you? There you go, thank you very much. All right, and we'll start this next one with Mary. With significant state expenditures toward COVID prevention these last 7 months, our state management and budget office has projected a $2.4 billion deficit for the 2021 season ending next July, and another $4.7 billion deficit for the next 2-year budget. This comes from a $1.5 billion surplus in February. For the next 90 seconds, please describe your thoughts on how to balance the budget.
Well, first of all, it's very important to balance a budget by limiting the size of government and the amount of money government spends. I know that personal checkbooks haven't swollen at all during this time. They've had a hard time, and the last thing they need is to have more money taken out of their checkbook when they need money for school supplies, they need for clothes, maybe a roof and other things that they need to do. It's very important that we keep that money in their pocket, because when it does, and they spend on those things, that sales tax and other things helps to generate more revenue for the government as well. Worst thing you can do is choke off our economy. I think too that government over the last several years has gotten really, really big. Many more full-time employees, much more money. It has really, really grown at a high percentage. I think it is time for us to see that being able to be reduced. One of the things we found through this economic change is that more people have learned they can work from home. They can do a great job. We can use technology. There's so many things. And by the way, I was around the last time Minnesota had a $6 billion budget shortfall. We did not raise taxes. We did not raise fees. We held the line on government spending. We restructured, reformed. We did the hard work that it takes to look for those savings. And by the way, in a $50 billion budget, small amounts of savings really add up. It's very important to look for what government can do by restricting and leave more money in the people's checkbook.
All right, thank you, Diane.
Because of COVID, we know that we're now in a deficit, and to balance the budget, more families are struggling and finding, where can they find this extra money? Is it in their savings? Is it in life-term insurance? No, it isn't. So what we have to do is find jobs for here in our district. We support manufactured jobs to build products here, right here in America, support our economy. We also need to, for healthcare, we need to support our healthcare workers, people going into education. We need teachers to keep Minnesota on top with education, because the more that we are with education and knowledge, we will succeed as a state, and people will look up to us, and then we will lead in the economy and be leaders. But first, we need to take control of this COVID, this virus, because probably this would happen if we have our government take control and not try to defeat Governor Walz's executive decisions on trying to get our economy moving again.
All right, thank you. Dan, we'll start with you on this one. Do you consider a state lockdown constitutional? Why or why not? For 30 seconds, please.
Well, I believe it's not constitutional because we all have rights, just like putting up lawn signs, Biden signs, Trump signs. That's our right, that's our freedom. The thing is, we do need to look at science and data, results, and analyzing, just like our Governor Walz did, and using the U of M statistics and data. Counties need to look at the CDC, go on the MDH, see where the spikes are, and from there, the local government should be able to see if they want to open it bigger, they can release some of the restrictions, or go back and restrict and quarantine, stay home, make sure the 10 to 14 days is there and put in place.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
In regards to lockdowns, I don't know, I think what we're hearing more and more from the science, from the medical doctors and others, that lockdowns are horribly harmful. not just the economy, you hear about that a little bit more, but also to people's overall health. Yes, we need to deal with COVID. It is a dangerous disease. We need to be safe and protect each other without question. On the other hand, locking the economy down leads to isolation, more suicides, more issues, a lack of strong and healthy people. Children, when they're learning, cannot read the faces. It's important for them.
Okay, thank you, and Mary, we'll start with you on this one. Health and Human Services is the largest expenditure of our state budget for 2021, and yet employment and day services for adults with disabilities, such as Options in Big Lake, wasn't granted operating funds for 6 months and now only a minimal amount. For the next minute, can you share your thoughts on this issue and on Health and Human Services budget?
Health and Human Services is an area that I've served on in the legislature during my entire time as a former registered nurse, hospital district board member. That knowledge and experience was very helpful. One of the things with DT&H, day training and habilitation, and options here is one of them, is the importance of their being able to serve those who are the neediest amongst us. Very critical services. I was a leader in that in the Minnesota Senate. To let you know, though, it was just a puzzle to me as I asked the governor again and again, Governor, just one phone call to the Center for Medicaid Services and they release the money that is needed for these entities. I just don't quite understand it. Nevertheless, I worked in a bipartisan way with the senators and we passed overwhelmingly a bill several times that would have funded them and taken care of them. So I will continue to do that. They are important and they are essential to our community. I'm a guardian for my sister who works at one of those sheltered workshops. I understand the needs that they have and look out for them like I would look out for my own sister.
All right, thank you, Diane.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, Health and Human Services is the largest expenditure of our state budget in 2021, and yet employment and day services for adults with disabilities, such as Options in Big Lake, wasn't granted operating funds for 6 months and now only a minimal amount. Please share your thoughts on this issue for 1 minute.
Well, as a former CNA, certified nursing assistant, I care for the elderly and the geriatric population, and that saddens me that it wasn't granted for 6 months, but I also understand that to protect our senior population, they have compromised immune systems, and so that's why I was in place, to protect them, to protect our vets, but also then there should have been more money for healthcare workers, whether you're the PCA, the home health aide, that maybe it was $15 an hour that they needed to keep people safe. They needed to do the temperature checks. And adult daycare centers are so important so their families can continue to work, keep our economy going. And so with that not granted, that was probably maybe a setback in the healthcare. But we do need to keep going, rehabilitate physical disabilities, students with special needs. All of that help needs to be funded, and so our Department of Human Resources should be funded more.
Okay, very good, thank you. Diane, you'll start this next one. K-12 education is the second largest expenditure of the state budget. Now with COVID precautions, schools face additional expenses. For the next minute, what can the state do to help school districts teach our children?
Well, speaking to superintendents of 728 and 727, they said that hybrid was going to cost a lot, and the cheapest way was to go full distance learning. But that also meant that internet and internet connections was going to be hard. So they decided on the hybrid and COVID data. So if the funds were released where the superintendents and the districts could move the funds around, that it wasn't allocated per category, if they were able to move the funds around, then they would be able to move more funds for special needs. The mental health crisis, like I stated before, 10% of our students in 728 are in a mental health crisis. And then more funds for our teachers to be licensed, more funds for therapists and counselors to be there for our students, because in this pandemic, everybody is struggling and in chaos. And we just need to support all of our teachers. Being Education Minnesota endorsed, our teachers need us and we need them.
All right, thank you. And Mary?
When it comes to education, probably the biggest thing the state can do is get out of the way a little bit more. Right now, the state micromanages and creates different pots of money. They have to spend a lot of time and effort just keeping track of it all. And what I hear from my superintendents again and again, untie our hands, trust us, trust our school board, trust our local parents, trust our teachers, that they together will set the budget and spend the money. If they could have all the paperwork removed and have the per pupil come to them as a block grant, that would be the best thing that the state can do for them. For our district as well, the city of Minneapolis-St. Paul gets about $12,000, $14,000 per pupil. Out here we get about $8,400 or so most recently. And by the way, the education budget has never been cut, never been reduced. Sometimes shifted, but they have always gotten an allocation of more money every single time, which I have supported. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mary, we'll start with you for this next question. 30 seconds. What can you as a state senator do to help create new employment opportunities in Big Lake?
Well, in Big Lake, I've really had fun over the years in talking with the economic development workers and the city and the staff to be an encouraging city, to welcome them. And I know that Lupulin Brewery is in Big Lake because they said, how can we help you? How can we make it easy? And Jeff Zared said, that's the city I want to come to. So the city of Big Lake itself is doing a lot. The state of Minnesota mainly takes a lot of property tax money through the commercial industrial property tax. I was part of freezing that a few years ago.
All right, thank you for that. And Diane?
One thing to bring more business to Big Lake would be affordable housing. Let more people have affordable housing, move here, and start a new life for their family. Also, small business help, let the government help them re-innovate their jobs, help them with technology, help them with their websites, so they can reach out more to their consumers and keep afloat. Also, the tax opportunity zone in our county, manufacturing jobs. Get the jobs here, manufacture here, and have products made in America.
Okay, thank you. All right, our last question. Diane, we'll start with you. For your last minute here, why are you the best candidate for this office? And is there something else you want us to tell us about yourself or your views?
Yes. I want the people of our district to know the truth of our incumbent senator. In a tweet she posted while speaking with a supporter who said, baby whites and blacks cannot live with one another. Our senator responded, and they want to pass $13 trillion and give each black $375,000. And that is the only start. We can't end systemic racism, prevent deaths like George Floyd. If we don't vote ones that peddle racism and support voter suppression and live in spreading conspiracy theories as truths and live life in the past mindset of the Jim Crow days. It's like driving a car. We need to put the gear in D for protecting our democracy and not in R, reverse. But work hard to produce and bear fruit as my faith promises, and I will promise to you that I will get our lives back to a surplus. I'm Diane Wynn, and I'm asking for your vote November 3rd for change for our democracy.
All right, and Mary?
I think you, the people of the district, I trust you, and you're looking at the candidates that you hear today and you've met along the way to make the decision who is the candidate, the one that you want to continue serving you. Without question, though, I've been very involved in my district. I have listened to you through email, through other comments, been available to you, have had town halls where I bring information or get information for you, been involved in my district, and I enjoy very much working with the Big Lake leaders to help in understanding what the needs of the district are. In addition, I'm honored to be endorsed by the Minnesota Peace and Police Officers Association, MCCL, Minnesota Citizens Concerned for Life, NFIB, the Small Business Association, the Minnesota Farm Bureau, NRA, I'm rated A+, Housing First, the Minnesota Chamber Leadership. I am proud to represent a growing Big Lake. I've been available to you, and I'm a proven record on the issues that matter to Big Lake. I ask for your vote for November 3rd. Thank you.
All right, and that includes or concludes this round. Thank you both very much for coming tonight.
Thank you, Big Lake.
Our next Big Lake City Council. All right, well, we are ready for our candidates. Please come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, our next race, Big Lake City Council, please welcome candidates Teddy Green, Sam Hansen, Ken Halverson, Alan Heidman, and Paul Seafield. Running for the Big Lake City Council. Ken and Teddy are running for a 2-year term, and Sam, Alan, and Paul for 4-year terms. First question. Alan, we'll start with you. Okay. For 30 seconds, briefly summarize your personal background and experiences and why you are running for the office of City Council.
Absolutely, thank you. So, Alan Heidemann, I'm currently a project manager in my day job for KIFEMEYER. We do industrial water treatment and municipal water treatment systems around the country. I'm currently also the chairman of the Planning Commission for Big Lake. I've been on that board for a little over 4 years, and been the chairman for the last year. I'm also on the Big Lake Economic Development Authority, and I've been the president of that since January. And I'm running to get back to the community and to keep fighting and bringing what I've brought to those two boards forward.
All right, thank you. And Paul?
I'm Paul Seafield, running for Big Lake City Council. I have served 8 years in the Minnesota Army National Guard, Red Bulls, and currently serving as the commander of the Big Lake American Legion, and I've been with the Legion for 4 years. I'm also with the Big Lake Yellow Ribbon. Mainly, I just want to serve. I've always been about service, getting people involved in their community more and more, and that's one of my points that we'll get into next.
Thank you. Ken?
My name is Ken Halverson. I lived in town for 32 years. I got a wife and a child that are here, and I raised here. It's a great community, and I guess my thought process, if you want change, don't sit back on your computer and type or anything like that. Step up and get change. So I've been on the fire department for 30 years as chief of the fire department. I've volunteered numerous times on many events, chaired many events, and I've coached sports here for over 25 years. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sam?
Hi there, I'm Sam Hansen. I was born and raised in Maple Grove. I moved here to Big Lake 5 years ago. I currently serve on the fire department. Been a part of it for 2 years now. My wife and I are expecting our first child in March, and I'm just looking to be a good role model for him as he grows up.
All right, thank you. Kitty?
Good evening, my name is Ketty Green. My husband Greg and I have been married 32 years, and we've lived in here for 20 years. We've raised 3 daughters, and I'm also a U.S. Navy veteran, along with my husband. I'm a founding member of the Big Lake Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, and I currently serve on the Planning Commission. I've been on there for 14 years, and also have volunteered many times throughout the last 20 years with different organizations. And the reason I'm running is I want to be part of planning.
Next question, Paul, we'll be starting with you. For 60 seconds, what would be your top 2 or 3 priorities as a city council member serving Big Lake?
Thank you. As I said in my opening, community involvement is huge for me. Everywhere I go at my church, I'm like talking to people. Get involved, because if you're not involved, someone else is going to make the decisions for you. Debt is a huge issue. If we don't have debt, we're stronger as a city. We don't have to raise taxes continually to pay off that debt. And finally, transparency. So a couple years back, I actually messaged the city administrator and I asked if the workshops were recorded, and they were, so we got them published on the city website. I think that's part of increasing transparency, and I think we can do better with posting minutes on Facebook and agendas, which are already happening because people have asked for this. So again, community involvement, transparency, and responsible spending and debt-free spending. Thank you.
One of my biggest ones is being fiscally responsible. I talked to the city staff today, and a couple of my questions is our budget proposal, it's not said it can come down, it can't go up, is a 5.68% increase, $259,000. It can come down. I talked to the city administrator today about it a little bit, and it can come down, so it's not set at that number. My question is I was here in 2008 when things went bad, after being here all these years. Why is there an increase? I would say everybody should have told the line this year so that we don't have the problem we had in 2008 where we backpedaled and we had issues. And we have good finances. I understand that the majority of it is being covered with increased property value and development that came to the area. So some of it is being covered by that, but not all of it. And I just don't know why we didn't hold the line, and keep that in our coffer for this COVID dilemma that we have.
Thank you. And Sam?
Hi there. Yes, transparency is one of my biggest issues that I've seen going on with the current council. There's a lot of decisions that are made, and we're only told that this is the answer, this is what we came to. I will be promising to make sure that everybody knows why we came to those decisions that are made, rather than just telling people this is the decision we made. As Paul said, that is a big issue here in Big Lake. We have made strides in the past few years of bringing it down, and I will continue to lower the city's debt. Public safety, being a firefighter for the last 2 years, it's close to home for me. Being in this great community, you can see the support that we have. We do have one of the best police departments in the state, and I commend them on that. I will make sure that all of our public safety has exactly what they need. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Eddie?
Public safety, Big Lake is one of the safest cities in Minnesota, and I will support the first responders while ensuring to continue physical accountability with our police, fire, and our building entities. The fiscal responsibility, we've reduced our debt significantly over the years, and I will continue to work on that. I truly believe in our city staff that we have. They've worked diligently to ensure that we are spending our money, bringing it to council to make sure that we're doing our work. And fostering economic growth, we have so much to offer in Big Lake, and it's just a matter of being able to get people to come here. And our EDA is working on rebranding Big Lake and trying to get businesses and people to come in and build housing. We definitely need to have more move-up housing and sunset housing. That's, I'm looking at that somewhere down the road, and I want to be able to stay here. And just being able to foster our economic growth, I think, is also important. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now.
Thank you. So a couple of my prioritizations. Number one, obviously public safety. We are continually voted one of the safest cities in the state of Minnesota. What that looks like to me is making sure the fire and police departments have the resources that they need. That's not giving Chief Sharp and Chief Hansen a blank checkbook and letting them go crazy. We have to make sure we're fiscally responsible with it, but we want to make sure that we give them the resources to go out there and be safe. The next one for me is quality of life, and this looks really different to a lot of different people. To me, this is making smart investments in the city of Big Lake and ensuring that we have good parks, we have good trails, we have the infrastructure that we need. And that's going to really build that smart growth and building what we're looking for as far as housing diversity, those move-up housing, sunset housing, as Ketty said. So really that would be the final one, is just making sure we are smart about that growth. We listen to the citizens, we understand the concerns about some of the growth that comes into the city, and making sure that those concerns are heard and voted on and acted on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. For our next question, Ken, go ahead and start. DNR announced a few weeks ago that Mitchell Lake and Big Lake now have zebra mussels, and the Big Lake Community Lakes Association has contracted for a professional survey to determine the best containment treatment. For the next 60 seconds, what are your thoughts on what the city can do to minimize invasive species in our lakes?
I think the Lakes Association and the city have done a lot of things. I know they got that donation from, I think it was the Mickle Golden Draft one, where they had money that they could invest in the lakes. They've closed down the one axis. They've tried to restrict it more. This year's been very tough. I know with COVID, we've had so many more people here trying to get into the lake. So I know they've done a good job on, they've had people there checking boats as they go in and out. They've had it monitored, and I don't know, it's kind of a tough situation. You can't tell nobody they can use the lake, but you can do the best you can to monitor it and restrict, the boats that are going in and out. As far as the city's responsibility, I think we do have some financial responsibility of the lake and the Lakes Association to step up and continue to help them do what they need to do, because Big Lake is a large asset of our community, and people do come here, and that was evident when things started shutting down. People came to our town. So it is one of our biggest assets, and we do need to do something to secure it.
All right, thank you.
Yes, I did see this, the zebra mussels coming in here. Unfortunately, this year, due to the COVID lockdown, funding was tied up, it seemed, for the Lakes Association and the DNR, as well as the city, when it came to staffing the launch. I would like to see the city offer incentives to those who would like to volunteer. I know there are some paid positions, but a lot of it was volunteer-based. Big Lake is one of our biggest assets. I know that the city staff has the opportunity and the funds available to use an emergency time funding to eradicate this. I would urge them to take that money and move forward and just make sure they're spending it wisely.
Give me a second, Ketty. Housekeeping, gentlemen, please pull the microphone closer. I know Ketty got a little phone.
Mine's okay.
Yours is good. All right, and Ketty?
Yeah, I did see that also, that the zebra mussels have found their way here. And obviously, with COVID and the amount of people that are using our lakes, it was, unfortunately, I think, inevitable that it was going to get here. I think we've done everything that we could at this point to stave it off. But it's not just the city of Big Lake to be able to work on this and the Lake Association. It's also a county-wide thing too. The county manages our lakes. So I think in working hand in hand with them, stepping up the checking of the boats, making sure that, you know, the people that are utilizing our lakes are following the restrictions that we have on there, so we can continue to make sure that our lakes are thriving and are good and very welcoming to the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alan.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, this was disheartening to read, to see the zebra mussels here. As Ketty mentioned, it's inevitable. It's kind of happening all over the place. This is the economic engine of the city. It's one of the big attractions. I grew up in Elk River. I lived on Lake Orono. That beach is empty in the middle of the summer, where our beach is full and you have to pay to get into ours. So it is a huge draw to the city. We have to do what we can responsibly to make sure that we do help out the Lakes Association. We bring the county in, really get all hands on deck to keep this lake here and keep it clean. It is a huge asset to the city. I hate to lose it to invasive species, and there's quite a few other ones, the starry stonewort and some other things that they're fighting against, and that would be really devastating to the lake. So everything we can do to help them and to back them up is something I'd fight for. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, it sounds like we all agree here that, you know, the lake is our gem in the city, and we need to do everything with working from the county to the DNR to protect it and keep it and fight the zebra mussels if we can do that. But yeah, it's a great asset that we have, and we do need to work to protect it and do those checks and stuff like that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sam, we'll start with you. After the riots in Minneapolis in late May, some city council members in the metro area advocated to quote-unquote defund or redistribute some police department funds into other programs such as mental and social services. For 30 seconds, what are your thoughts on this, and specifically as it pertains to the Big Lake Police budget?
When it comes to the Big Lake Police budget, I don't believe that there would be any need to defund them for funds to go towards mental health services. We have a great network already in place, and our police are greatly trained every year, and they go to specialized training for this exact scenario. I don't believe that it would be necessary.
All right, Katie?
I don't think that defunding the police is anything that we would need to be looking at. I've had the opportunity this last week to be able to go out and watch some of their scenario trainings and participate in it, and their goal is to ensure that situations are de-escalated and not shoot first, if you want to say, or whatnot. And I believe that they have significant training in that, and I wholeheartedly support our police department, and I don't think that defunding is an option.
All right, thank you. Alan?
Awesome, yeah. Our police department already runs very lean. There's not anywhere in there to cut. We're one of the fewest officer per capitas, or one of the highest officer per capita in the state, so it's not something where we'd be able to cut that. It is an important issue, though, the mental health side of things, especially with COVID and the lockdowns, where I don't think the police budget is where we want to pull that from. We want to see if we can find some other sources, whether that's county or state or different grants to come in. It's not necessarily something that the city of Big Lake could really tackle on its own and take on. Thank you.
Okay, Paul?
Absolutely not defund the police department. I know that Chief Sharp got up during one of his department updates in the council meeting and said, no, our officers do have social training. They know how to de-escalate. So it's totally false that us officers don't have this training. We do not need to defund them. They're well trained. We have one of the best police departments in the state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again.
Yeah, defunding the police department. I grew up in Monticello. We had our own police department, and we gave it up. That's not an option, because after that happened, it was wait, because the cops can be in Zimmerman, we're not in Monticello, they can be in Buffalo, they can be wherever. So defunding the police department is not an option. We got a good police department. Matter of fact, we just got that armored car, and I had a few discussions where people disagree with it, and I defended the police department about it, and I think it's a good investment, and it's a big safety issue.
Okay, thank you. Eddie, you starting our next question. With the consumer price index at a little over 1% and 2021 Social Security checks being increased at 1.3%, for the next minute, share your thoughts on the preliminary 2021 tax levy of $4.8 million, an increase of 5.7%.
Oh, sorry. So there are areas within the budget that, you know, look like they need to be increased in order to be able to maintain our services. If we look at defunding, or not defunding, but if we look at cutting it, where are we going to cut things? And we need to make sure that where we have our budget set and our levy set, we'll be able to fund the things so that we're able to keep Big Lake active and thriving and moving forward. And the levy part of it, it just needs to continue. You don't want it to decrease and increase at the, you know, at a disproportionate rate. So we just want to continue with where we're going.
Yeah. In reviewing the budget, a lot of that has to do with staff costs and insurance going up and different things like that. And we see that in the private sector all the time, where your insurance will go up based on your job and where you work. And really how to combat this is that smart growth I talked about earlier, bringing those new developments in, bringing in different businesses, building out the business park to help spread out that tax burden on the residents to ease that piece. Because you're going to get this organic growth. We've had between 4% and 6% over the last 5 years of budget growth, and that's part of that human cost to the city and all the staff and what you see there. And there's no avoiding it without cutting their benefits or cutting a lot of different things within that. We want to be able to attract the best talent to the city to help us in economic development, in city administration, in all those different fields. And to do that, you have to provide those services and pay. So bringing in other businesses and smart growth will help ease that burden for the rest of the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I agree with the burden on the businesses and reducing that, bringing in more businesses. But one point is that, you know, if we have no debt, then we're going to be stronger as a city because we're not going to have debt service. And then as far as like transparency that I've talked about, there's the franchise fee that people pay on their gas and electric bill, and business pays double what a resident pays. And it's like, that's not a transparent tax. If we remove some of these taxes, it's also a regressive tax. It hurts people with lower income more. So if you reduce some of these taxes and pay off this debt, our city will be stronger and welcome more businesses to pay those taxes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mentioned earlier, you know, especially like this year, I think we should have just toed the line. And I know it would have been tough because health insurance went up, cost of living, but when you go up, you know, 5-6% every year, that's more than a lot of people get for raises and stuff like that. So when you go up like that, you're actually the person gets a raise and you kind of take it away with taxes. That's kind of my thought. And I think you have to have debt for a city. It's just like having a credit card. You have to keep your credit rating up. I've been at many meetings where Deb talked about our city's credit rating, how good it is. That's because as long as we pay our debt and we keep it under control, we're just fine. It gives us a better credit rating. We can borrow money at a better interest rate. I do think we need to do something about business and industry to relieve the pressure off the homeowners, because right now it's all on the homeowners per se. I don't know the exact number, but I would say the vast majority, 70% of it is homeowner, 30% business, because we are a little bit upside down in that aspect. I don't know that exact number, but as long as we keep spending it down and spend our money, you know, fiscally responsible and have checks and balances, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, thank you. And Sam?
Thank you. As far as our increase this year, it is just the preliminary. It can still go down. Right now, I believe that we can just make sure we check with all of our different departments and all of our different staffing and ensure that our tax base is willing to, or is able to support this increase. I don't believe we should be spending more on our taxes than what is coming in, and bringing in, I'm not entirely familiar with this portion here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alan, we'll be starting with you. The city's debt load has been reduced 55% from 76 million in 2010 to 33.8 million in 2020. And yet our sanitary sewer system is nearing capacity or exceeds capacity at times. Please respond in 30 seconds if you see a need for adding additional debt, such as in our sanitary sewer system, and why.
That's a great question, and we have done a really good job in paying that debt down, and it is paid as what it is laid out to be. We can't pay it down any faster. As a city our size, we don't have the Sherco plant. We don't have those big tax bases that a Monticello or Becker have. So we do have to take out debt to fund some of these pieces. I work in water treatment. I have projects that are $4 million. That's our entire budget almost. We have to be able to borrow that, but do it smartly. And we don't run a budget deficit here. We have to borrow for those big ticket items, and that's kind of it. It's like getting a mortgage on your house. Thank you.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, to Alan's point, a mortgage on your house, the more you put down up front, the less you have to pay. So if we can save more money in cash to put towards this big project with debt, then we'll be more secure. Again, the debt is your debt. It's the citizen's debt. So if the city goes, then you're stuck with the bill. But I would say let's be debt-free. We're more secure being debt-free. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ken.
I think city staff's done a phenomenal job of reducing our debt load and bringing it down. The wastewater treatment plant, I do believe it's on the books for like a $3 million upgrade. I do believe it was. And there's $1 million or whatever that came from the state. And talking to the city, it's going to increase our wastewater treatment plant 20% according to Lane, the city engineer, when I talked to him. So you kind of have to, you either have to spend money in a wastewater treatment plant and keep it going, or according to them, you will have to pay fees and penalties. So you pay one way or the other.
Okay, thank you. Sam?
Thank you. Yes, so the wastewater treatment facility just went through a great upgrade. We've been bringing in sludge from other cities and processing it. I believe this is a great asset to have for us to have such a large facility. I would encourage the city staff to continue this practice as long as we don't overpower the treatment facility. Unfortunately, this year, our Parks and Recreation accounted for over a quarter of our city's water use. I would like to see the city find other ways to get water to water those parks.
All right, thank you. Katie?
Yes, if we are exceeding our capacity on being able to utilize the wastewater treatment, I want to make sure that it is able to function on its own. And if we have to do the upgrades, we got to have the funding there. Like Ken was saying, it looks like it's going to be about a $3 million upgrade with $1 million that came in from the state. And I just want to make sure that if I have to flush, it's going to go, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, we'll start with you on this next question. For the next 30 seconds, what thoughts do you have to keep our local economy growing in the next decade when our workforce is predicted to barely grow as baby boomers retire?
Yeah, again, a strong local economy, being a strong local government with fewer debt, of course, and then building the economy, bringing in businesses by reducing untransparent taxes for one. And one thing with housing, we talk about low-income housing or affordable housing, they talk about. Housing becomes unaffordable when we put burdensome ordinances on the houses. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
I think sometimes our group, we are getting older as a community, so we are going to have to come up with senior housing. But in the next breath, I think by changing some of our codes, and I know that there's a group working on that now, on working on our codes and stuff like that, and changing them to fit more of the times. Our code book's 3 inches deep, thick versus 1 inch. I heard the committee, there's a couple people that are in the committee that are here that are working on it to make it easier to bring people in, to get jobs, to keep people here, to create our economy and make it better. So.
All right, thank you. Sam?
Yes, I would like to bring in more step-up housing. Our city right now has a lot of beginning houses, a very small number of step-up housing. I would like to see an increase in that to free up these beginner houses that we have to bring more of the younger generation in. I love to see that we are looking towards the future right now with bringing in senior living. And I believe that our codes as well need to be relaxed a little bit more because we are making all of our developers jump through hoops right now.
Okay, Kenny?
We do have a task force put together that is looking at getting the codes revised. And being on the planning commission, I've been able to see what the market is driving and trying to figure out what's going to be the best for Big Lake. And we need to really work on not only getting business and industry here, but also the people who, you know, the younger families all the way up through to the senior housing, and just being able to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you, and Alan.
Absolutely. Really the thoughts on keeping this local economy growing is get government out of the way. Like the Code Revision Task Force is going to be doing a great job with that. They're in their early stages of making that city code easier and less restrictive. This is a huge piece of just making sure government doesn't stand in the way of the businesses doing that. Also in EDA, we're doing a great branding project right now. So we're getting the Big Lake name out there, marketing it to the different cities of businesses that are looking to move out to somewhere safer. And so that's something that we've been working on, and it's going to be a great program. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ken, our last question. For your last minute here, is there anything else you want to tell us about yourself, your views, and please tell us why you're the best candidate for this office?
I like the community I live in. I wouldn't have lived here for 30 plus years if I didn't. I'm devoted to the community, I'm devoted to the people in this town, and I'm not afraid to ask the question that people don't like to be asked. I've talked to Mr. Wilford Clay, the city administrator, a lot lately, texting and stuff like that. He's been very, very nice to deal with and talk to, and anytime I need questions. So I'm not afraid to ask the questions. It's kind of like our apartment conversation I'm having with how much they pay per unit to the city towards taxes and schools. I'm not afraid to ask that question, and actually, since I've asked that question, the city administrator has talked to me about maybe we should set up a meeting with us in the county and go over some of this stuff on the taxes and the shortfall in our taxes and the schools that are what they're receiving. So, and then go to the state, because it's actually done by the state, the mathematical equation. So I think I'm probably the best person because I'm not afraid to ask the question that people don't want to ask, and I'm not afraid to get the answer.
All right, thank you. Sam?
Thank you. Over the last 2 years, I have been on the Big Lake Fire Department, and I have served this community tirelessly. I will continue to do the exact same thing, representing you as a city council member. I've got hundreds of hours of volunteer service. I enjoy speaking with people, going out and hearing their concerns. I will always make sure that you know why we are making our decisions, and I am looking forward to serving you and hope for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie?
First, I just want to thank everybody for being here in the chamber for putting this on. My purpose, I've always been a servant to people. I love helping people. I've been doing this since I've been a child. I stepped up and served in the United States Navy. I served my community by being on Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, other organizations I've been in, on the Planning Commission, and I want to continue to serve. I'm at a point in my life now with my kids being out of school that I'm able to represent Big Lake, being able to listen to the needs that you have, ideas that you have. It's all of us working together. It's all of us being positive, loving our town. Why do we want other businesses to come here? When you're at work and you hear somebody that says, hey, you know, we're looking to expand, tell them why Big Lake is where you want them to be. And I ask for your vote. And I love Big Lake, and if you want to know more about me, visit my webpage at votekeddy.com. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alan?
Thank you. So why I'm the best candidate here? Really boils down to a couple different things, and the first one I'll touch on is the experience. Being on Planning Commission for over 4 years, I was also on the Planning Commission in Monticello for a couple years before my wife and I moved here, and then also on the EDA for about 1.5 years is going to give me that experience to hit the ground running. I'll be able to know the different facets of what's going on, being able to speak the language, to be able to make those informed decisions. And then number 2 is being the voice of the people. I've gotten a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, Facebook messages. I try to respond to all of them I feel like I have. If there are questions at any point, I've published cell phone numbers, emails through the website, through Facebook. I want to be that voice. I want to be able to take those in and bring those to the decisions at council. That's what local government's all about, is having that relationship with your representative that you wouldn't get at necessarily the state or the federal level, because the decisions we make as council really affect the day-to-day of a person living in Big Lake. So I want to be that voice and make sure I take that in and make the best decisions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and Paul.
Yes, thank you, Chamber, thank you, Kevin. Thank everyone for being up here to want to serve the community. As I said, I served in the Army, and I really believe in service. It's a pleasure going to people's houses and sitting down on their couches and hearing what they think about what the city can do, what it is doing. Like I said, to continue being transparent, publicizing what is going on in your city before it actually happens. Sometimes decisions are made before the citizens even find out about them, and they're like, how did this happen? I would definitely be citizens first, you guys at the forefront, to serve you and what's coming as a city. So thank you. You can contact me at voteseafield@gmail.com or whatever. Paul Seafield, November 3rd. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this section of our debate.
About normal.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready for our next race, City of Big Lake Mayor. Please welcome candidates Paul Kinnear and Mike Wong. Mike, we'll start with you. For 30 seconds, briefly summarize your personal background and experiences and why you are running for the office of mayor.
Well, if I could have about 30 minutes, that'd be better. But my name is Mike Wallen. I have been on the city council now for the last 10 years. I've been a resident of Big Lake for 24 with my wife, Shelley. We raised our 2 kids here. They went to high school here. It's a great community. I look at the time I've spent. It hasn't been just on council. It's been on EDA. It's been on a number of other committees that has helped broaden my perspective and my scope on what it is the city does and what the people actually want.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your attention tonight. No introduction of myself would be complete without first and foremost mentioning that I'm first and foremost a man of faith. Beyond that, my wife and I have been married for 27 years. We've raised 5 wonderful children here in Big Lake. I've been a financial advisor for 28 years, on the council for 2 years, president of the Chamber of Commerce here in Big Lake, and also president of the Big Lake Lions. Why am I running? Because I love Big Lake, and I want to serve, and I want to protect your safety, your money, and your freedoms.
Okay, thank you. And our next question, Paul, we'll start with you. For 60 seconds, what would be your top 2 or 3 priorities as mayor serving Big Lake?
Okay, top 2 or 3 priorities. Well, public safety, of course, is priority number 1. I've always said that. We're going to continue to make sure that our police department, our fire department have the resources that they need to continue doing the fantastic job that they do. But I think we kind of we both agree on that. So I want to focus on something that differentiates us here tonight. And one of those is the freedoms that we have. Thomas Jefferson once said, "The natural progress of things is for liberty to yield and government to gain ground." We have to be vigilant against that. Over the past 2 years on the council, I watched as the majority of the council was appointed to their positions as opposed to elected. I think it's a slippery slope. We have to be very careful about that. In talking to people all across Big Lake over the last 4 months, I have found that they feel very strongly that they want to have a say in who's representing their interests. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Amazing how quickly that happens, isn't it?
Yes, it is. All right, thank you, Mike.
Well, I look back 10 years ago when I first ran, and I have not wavered from it. My top 2 priorities are public safety and quality of life. And it really is kind of nice to listen to the council member candidates when they are echoing those same sentiments. I don't think you can have a good community, and I mean a community, if you don't have public safety, if you don't live in a safe community. And that's much more than just police. We're also talking about fire, we're talking about our building department, and pretty much everything else that the city actually does. So public safety is going to be first and foremost in my eyes, and it has been for my 10 years. Second thing is quality of life, and the council member candidate Heidemann mentioned that too. That's one of those things, it's a little bit more esoteric, and sometimes it's a touchy-feely thing, but that's what brings people to your community, and that's what keeps them here. It's offering them different things to do that tend to fulfill out and give them that rounded out life.
All right. Thank you, Mike. You'll start this next one.
Oh, good.
Big Lake is sometimes described as a bedroom community to the metro area and St. Cloud. For the next 90 seconds, share your vision for Big Lake for the next 10 years, specifically as it pertains to businesses and more housing options.
When you think about it, that's a great question. It's, people ask, and I hear it asked all the time, so what is the city doing? What is the city doing? What is the city doing? The city is a public entity. It's the private side of it that will drive that. We as a city, and it goes back to my two top priorities, you need to have that safe community and you need to have that quality of life. That's what will attract businesses, developers, locators, all the rest of the things that bring that to us. You know, we do have a disproportionate share between businesses and residential, which we have worked diligently and are trying to change. Because you're right, I mean, the question is absolutely right. We are more of a bedroom community. Now, you still have people that live here forever that want it to remain a bedroom community, and then you have newer people that are moving in that want to change that and move us forward on that. And that's that balance that we need to find. But we are doing so many different good things through EDA and all of the things, and it was fun to hear the candidates talk about the different things we're doing, our branding. You know, we just created an I-4 innovation zone that would allow smaller businesses a place where they could actually establish and start a business. It's all of those things that we have wrapped together, and watching that come to fruition has been tremendously fun.
Of course, thank you, Paul.
All right, thank you. Let's start with the business community, and a lot of the points I was going to make have already been touched on tonight. I just wanted to touch base on the great work that our EDA is doing with this rebranding project. I have to admit it, I did kind of have to choke on that a little bit, but I really feel it's a very good investment to, it puts everybody in Big Lake, from council to staff to the residents, everybody taking part, all pulling on the rope the same direction to sell Big Lake to businesses, to get them to come to town. And then in addition to that, with everything that's going on in Minneapolis right now, and I think it was Alan Heidemann who touched base on it, and he said that businesses in Minneapolis right now, many of them, are looking at a safer place to go. We happen to be one of the safest places in Minnesota, so we have a lot to offer. And we are actively marketing. We're actively marketing, sending information to businesses, asking them, letting them know what we have, asking them to come to town. So that's a big deal. As far as the housing, yes, I think I am a big proponent of paying down our debt. We've come a long way, but we've got a long ways to go. And I think if we can pay down our debt, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a long-term proposal here, long-term solution. But if we can pay down that debt, we can keep taxes down. That's going to be a draw for not only businesses but also homeowners. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Paul, we'll start with you on our next question.
Okay.
Since both of you have been city council members, for the next minute, describe how you see your role as mayor being different than a council person.
Oh, that's not fair. Just kidding.
I didn't come up with it.
How do I see my role as mayor being different than a council person? Well, we are, in a weak mayor system that we are one vote out of 5.
Ouch, that hurt. Weak mayor.
What's that?
That hurt. Weak mayor.
Yes. But having said that, the mayor does cast the vision. And it's up to him to sell that vision to the other council members and to the city as well. And I think the mayor, being a little bit more public figure, can set maybe a bigger example. I want to be an example of volunteerism. I want to be an example of kindness around the community, of servanthood to people. And so that is those are the main reasons that, the main things that I see differently than mayor versus council.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
You know, I've heard over the last 10 years how the council actually runs the city, which I think is a tremendously incorrect and it's a big misnomer. And I've talked about this over my last 10 years. Staff is really the group of people. You know, when I sit down and we're at the dais and Paul and I are sitting at the dais with the other council members, and I look around that room and I look at how blessed we are to have the people we have on staff, because they truly are the smartest people in the room. They're the ones who feed us the recommendations. They're the one who feeds us the statistics, all of the data that we need to have to make informed decisions on things. Paul hit on it. It is a weak mayor system. You got to remember, that's 1 vote out of 5. It's 1 out of 5. No different than any other council member sitting up there. But he is absolutely right too, because you can set the tone of a meeting, and you also, at the end of the day, you are also that kind of that figurehead that's out there. You get asked to do the opening speeches and some of the other things that happen with it. But other than that, it's pretty much the same.
Okay, thank you. For the next minute, share your thoughts on the city's parks and recreational budget. Mike, we'll start with you, please.
You know, this is one of those things that's hard for me. I'm not an outdoorsy kind of guy. I don't rollerblade, I don't ride my bike, I don't take walks. I mean, you can look at me and tell. But it's also one of those things that falls right into the quality of life issue that I am so big on, and I have always supported our parks. You know, when you think about it, you know, we have, I believe it's 19 parks and 20 miles of trails. And I do get around the city and I do see that they are all used tremendously. And people continually talk about that. We have added our Parks and Rec coordinator position. We've taken the steps to bring that more to the forefront and to actually give it a little bit more positivity. We've done some great things, and I know we get tremendously high marks from our citizens for that, and I will continue to fund that and continue to move those along and improve as we go.
All right, thank you. Paul?
I'm sorry, Kevin, could you repeat the question? I didn't hear the tail end of it.
Yes, sir. For the next minute, share your thoughts about the city's parks and recreational budget.
Okay. Well, yes, I think Big Lake has done a fantastic job. I've raised 5 children in Big Lake, ages 23 down to 13. We've spent a lot of time at the parks, and they've always been good. They've always, I mean, lots to do there. They've been clean, well maintained. We live very close to the beach park, and I think that was mentioned among the council members too, that is a very popular draw actually to outsiders, bringing them into town, and that might even help the Big Lake economy, the fact that people are coming from out of town, maybe spend some money here while they're here. So, having said that, I think we're on a good path for what we are spending for the parks, and we've got a great trail north of town here. Sometimes I drive around, as I'm going places, I just marvel at all the people walking, running along the lake, enjoying the town. It just gives me a warm feeling and makes me love Big Lake even more.
All right, thank you. For our final question, Paul, you'll start. For your last minute, is there anything else you would like to tell us about yourself, your views, and most of all, why are you the best candidate for this office?
Sure, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm not here to disparage anybody. I have nothing but respect for Mike here, and I think on a personal level we get along great. I would say we do have some differences. We do have some major differences. One is the one that I've already mentioned. I think, you know, people talk about experience. Yes, Mike has been on the council longer than I have. I think one thing that might come from that is, well, we hear about politicians on TV being in government for decades and decades, and they lose touch with the people that they're representing. And I think on a small scale, that might happen. As you're more and more in your role in government, you tend to think about the big picture, and you might forget about individual rights and liberties. And I'm very sensitive to any government overreach. I've been talking to a lot of people around Big Lake. They feel that they've been the victim of a lot of government overreach this year. Not necessarily from the city, but they don't want it to come from the city either. They want to protect that. And I'm also going to watch over spending, and we want to get debt paid down we want to continue to pay down that debt and avoid that interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
So now I get 45 seconds because Paul took 15 of them. Yeah, I'm going to put it this way to you. You know, I was elected in 2010. I came on, and guess what was happening? We had a recession going on. And I do tout experience, and it's not just experience sitting on a council, it's all the different associated committees and everything else that I've been on that kind of gives me a keen sense of awareness. And it's also those relationships that I've built, not just with staff, but also with commission members and also people in the public, businesses and all the rest of that. I'm going to wrap it up this way for you. I'm just an ordinary guy who has tried for the last 10 years to do extraordinary things for the city, and I've been blessed to be part of just a tremendous group of people that have taught me tremendous things. I'm not a politician. I never will be. I would appreciate your vote. If that's something that would appeal to you, then you might want to take another look at me. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Chamber. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And I made it under.
All right, thank you for that. That concludes our race for Big Lake Mayor. The next race is school.
We'll give you a summary. Interesting.
Oh, perfect. So that's the part that I understand. Things are nice out there. Yeah, let's discuss this with you.
Yes. Yes. Did it ever come back on?
No, I've tried a couple of times.
So we're just gonna give up then.
It's not even letting me log into Zoom. The network connection is like really low, and it shut itself off, and then again.
So no.
No,
But we
it
lost
worked up
connection.
until partway through the council.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yes.
Put that on the fence. Extra fun.
And I like Lori notes.
Okay. Maybe she can make an announcement.
I asked her if she had any notes, and she posted. I don't know if she did. Otherwise, Denise McDowell, she said she posted somewhere that was on Tuesday.
Oh, good. Okay.
I don't know if it was in the chat because I probably took that out. But
Okay.
she said she notified people at least.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Corey. I'll let you know. If there is, yeah, I have it. Okay. Really, that's what
Do you know where this has been? Oh God, it's tiny. Oh. Did I see a man about a horse?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go on to our next race. For school board, please welcome candidates Barbara Chappie, Lori Campa, Tony Scales, and Amber Sixbury running for the Big Lake School Board. Caitlin Bland could not be here tonight, so I'll read her statement after the candidates answer the first and second questions. Also, a point of housekeeping, unfortunately, we've lost our internet feed for the Zoom meeting, so we apologize for that. Right now, we're not able to get that back. School District 727 boundaries include the entire boundary of the city of Big Lake and parts of Big Lake Township and Orrock Township. 3 candidates will be elected. Lori, we'll start with you. For 30 seconds, briefly summarize your personal background and experiences and why you are running for the office of school board.
Thanks. I will bring experience as a parent, a grandparent, a former district employee, a community member, and a community leader. My 3 daughters attended Big Lake schools from kindergarten through graduation, and now I have a granddaughter in the district. I've previously served on the Planning Commission, Big Lake EDA, Big Lake City Council, and Mayor of Big Lake. This will be an asset in guiding the district into the future.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Amber Sixberry. So my experience lies within the last 8 years that I have spent on the school board, along with the co-op school that I work with is Right Tech. So basically, I feel like the experience that I've had over the 8 years is really helpful. At 6 of those years being as treasurer, and then the Right Tech bringing other opportunities to youth. I also have 4 boys who have all attended Big Lake School District, and I've given my time to many community nonprofits and organizations.
Thank you. Tony?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tony Scales. I've lived in Big Lake for 14 years. I've served on the school board for 8 of those years. I have 2 children in the school district, a senior and a sophomore, and I've watched those kids grow up in the district that I represent with another member here today, Amber. One of the things that I like to bring is a holistic view that you're going to hear about tonight, which I call the student-parent-teacher interaction. Connecting the dots of those 3 together are super important, and I hope we get a chance to talk more about that, specifically with those interactions and how it helps our community.
All right, thank you, Barb.
Good evening. My name is Barb Chafee, and I'm the CEO for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services, and I've served in that position for 20 years. Prior to that, I was a college instructor for 9 years. As a school board member, our primary role is governance. With a new superintendent on board and a raging pandemic at our door, now is the time to elect new members, board members with new perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For our next question, Amber, you'll start.
Okay.
For 60 seconds, what would be your top 2 or 3 priorities as a school board member serving the Big Lake area?
Okay. So as a school board member who has been part of the board for 8 years, education would obviously be the top priority for me. And when I say education, along with that comes the academic portion, obviously, the arts and the activities. I think it's really important that we are fostering our students, whether they're at the special ed level or an Excel student. I think that we need to be challenging them, and we need to be making sure that they have the best education possible. In addition to that, I think the budget's extremely important. We need to keep our budget at bay. We've been a very conservative board, and we want to make sure that what we're doing is providing the best opportunities for our students with the budget we have, hoping to not have to go out to the community asking for more money if we don't need it. So we've been very conservative and very responsible in that aspect. And finally, safety. And if we're going to give kids a good education, we absolutely have to have a safe place for them to go to school.
All right, thank you. Tony?
So with respect to the 3 things that's important, one is obviously the education of our students and offering all kinds of opportunities. So we talk about the 3 A's a lot in education. Amber touched on them: the academics, the arts, and athletics. It's important to offer as many opportunities for our kids to flourish. Second, the safety. With COVID, it's been extremely important that we maintain a strong relationship with the parents, the students, and the teachers and ensure safety for all. Touching on that, we've installed an HVAC system and additional systems within the school to help keep everybody safe. So continuing that involvement, leaning into our community with respect to the education and safety is important. Finally, the element of just serving is important. Serving our community is a necessary, and I commend everybody at this board right now for leaning in and really engaging in this discussion, because without it, we're not going to necessarily continue to grow the community in a positive direction. So thank you for everybody for being here tonight.
Thank you, Barb.
First, kids need normal. COVID-19 and COVID fatigue is on the rise in Big Lake. Too many of our children are suffering from loss of normalcy due to the pandemic and have experienced depression and thoughts of suicide. Returning to school has brought some normalcy with hybrid instruction. However, achievement gaps will still occur among students, especially if the district must continue with distance learning for a long period of time. Second, funding schools must be a priority. Studies show that K-12 spending cuts have serious consequences and weaken schools' capacity to develop intelligence and creativity for our students. Students who come from well-funded schools earn an average of 7% more in pay as adults and enjoy higher high school graduation rates. I hope our local elected officials are listening, and I know many of them are gone, but fund our public schools.
Thank you. All right, and Lori?
My top 3 priorities would be to promote and support the Career Pathways and Apprenticeship program that's going on now here at the high school, to advocate for legislation that funds the mandated programs from the state of Minnesota, allowing local tax dollars to be used for programs specific to Big Lake, and to support and enhance the district's policy of zero tolerance for bullying and promote the Hornet Way.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, I will read the statement from Caitlin Bland. My name is Caitlin Bland. I am running for a position within the Big Lake School Board. My experience comes with years of administrative and operations planning in my professional life. I believe each experience has left me with the innate ability to effectively communicate and problem solve at a high capacity. In my personal life, I have 3 sons who attend the Big Lake School District, 2 of which are involved in special education. I want to assist Big Lake schools through key matters affecting our staff and students, but also the parents. That's why I'm running for the school board. This position gives me the best chance to use my skills to better our community. Again, that was a statement from Caitlin Bland. For our third question, Tony, we'll have you start this one. For the next minute, as a school board candidate, what are your thoughts to ensure that our students have the best education in the midst of hybrid learning or online learning?
So with respect to hybrid and online learning, it's really up to the student and the parent and the teacher. And the way I say that is this, is everybody's different, everybody's running their own race. So with respect to the educational process, the family unit, along with that student, is going to make the best decision for their student. There is not a one model fit all right now with respect to this situation we're in. Many stories have come out with respect to how the education process is working. And it's important to note that across all 3 of those options, our student body that we're representing are getting the best education around with respect to the other districts. As I compare our district to some of the surrounding districts and some of the opportunities we're offering them, we're significantly ahead in many areas. With respect to that, our teachers contributing to all 3 of those options are driving a very consistent process throughout our student body, which is the most important thing we can do for our community right now.
All right, thank you. Barb?
Question again?
For the next minute, as a school board candidate, what are your thoughts to ensure that our students have the best education in the midst of hybrid learning or online learning?
I guess I would go back to that achievement gap and start there. Because research actually tells us that improving teacher quality, providing high quality early education, trimming class sizes, and expanding learning time, and linking schools to home are the most important things for our kids and for that achievement gap. I know that what this COVID-19 life has really turned upside down for our kids and for our teachers and for our families. And I know that we also have to listen to, and it's this COVID-19 has really been really stressful in our area and in our schools. But I think that our schools are doing the best that they can, and I know that is something that has already been stated. But I think we're doing the best job that we can in Big Lake to keep our kids safe and still be able to provide those classes, and even if it's hybrid, our young kids are coming in face to face. Oops, I'm sorry, I gotta stop there.
All right, thank you, and Lori?
Well, I would like to thank the current school board because you've had really great insight on this and our students are doing well. I think the only thing that I would add to what's currently being done is to continue working on broadband so that the students that don't have good internet connection, they have a better chance at keeping up with their studies then.
Okay, Amber?
Okay. So we as a board have turned to our administration to help us make a plan that came down from the governor. We had to find the very best thing that would fit our students. And so that administration and the board went hard to work in finding the very best way to accommodate them in the world we live in today, which is COVID. Right down to our transportation. So we set up a transportation plan to keep our youth safe. We decided to have smaller classes and do the hybrid, run the hybrid schedule so that those kids would have that smaller class spaces and be safe with the social distancing. The administration created an online program to benefit youth that maybe didn't want to do hybrid and wanted to go strictly online. In fact, today I actually found out that we have an open enrollment from St. Francis because it didn't work in their school district what they were doing. And so I was very proud to hear that. We have amazing teachers and staff that are doing an amazing job, and I just support everything that they do.
Okay, wonderful. Barb, you'll be first on the next question. Various reports have indicated higher mental health concerns and stress for both students and teachers dealing with the increased technology and different ways of learning. In 30 seconds, what ideas do you have to support students and teachers with increased stress?
Well, I've thought about this for some time, and I think I brought that up when I first spoke. But I see that we need to start, first of all, we need to have like a coalition of hope where we can bring together our police departments and our healthcare, our teachers, and this is something that I'm doing in my own corporation is talking about how we can stay positive. And I think that if we bring the right people forward, I think that we can find the solutions as a group.
Okay, thank you. Lori?
Well, I think that COVID has forced us to think about doing things a whole different way than we've ever done them before. For instance, technology that we had but we weren't using in the way that we are now has allowed us to take a look at things from a whole different point of view. So I guess that's kind of where I would go with it, is to try to look for the positives in ways that we can continue to increase the benefits that we already have.
Okay, thank you. Amber?
So I think the best way that we can support our staff and our students is to listen. I think it's important that we hear what they say, what and how their days are operating, how we can improve and problem solve. I think all of those things are extremely important moving forward with this model. I also think that as far as like social emotional health, the school has a very good program in place. They partner with people throughout the community, and I think it's just important that we make sure that our students and staff know that those services are available to them.
All right, thank you. Tony?
It's a great question, and as I was thinking and listening to the answers, the school is the center of our community. And when I think of the center of our community, I think of two things. I think of family, and I think of empathy. The people that talk to me and the people that I talk with, they just want to be heard. They're going through this like everybody else is, and they want a voice, and they want somebody to listen to them. Amber touched on it as well. We have great social services in place. In addition to those, and just listening to each other and being an empathetic voice, a shoulder to lean on, is all we need to do.
All right, thank you. Lori, for the next one, we'll start with you. For the next minute, with the school's additional expenses to minimize the spread of coronavirus with hybrid learning, less students in the classrooms, more buses transporting less students per bus, and increased technology devices and software. Do you feel the preliminary levy increase of 2.5% for the 2021-22 school year will be sufficient to cover those expenses?
Well, without being on the board currently, I don't have a lot of information on that, other than that I did talk with the finance director, and she shared with me that there is the CARES Act money that they have, they've done a really good job with so far. They still have some of that left. And so, you know, I would trust that the board works in workshop and with staff to determine what's needed, and that the budget would be accordingly.
All right, thank you. Amber?
Being the treasurer, I've had the benefit of working directly with our director of business. And I can tell you that the school is in a decent financial situation right now. When I say decent, it's because school finance is crazy business. I mean, it's hard to understand. And we have done a really good job of having a very conservative budget, and because of that, being fiscally responsible, I do think that we will be okay. I think that we have budgeted well, and we have planned that budget moving forward. We have a very good plan put in place for the transportation and the education part of the hybrid plan to keep those kids in social distancing and online. So yes, I do think that we've planned a very good budget with the current school board that we have, and moving forward we'll be just fine.
Thank you.
So I serve on the financial committee with Amber, and the thing to point out is the fact that we only had to raise it 2.5% is really the point that we're focusing on tonight. Think about that. With everything going on and the additional costs of the district, we only had to levy 2.5%. How do we get there? Well, one, we have a great financial advisor within our school district, a business analyst. Two, we're audited externally every year with respect to our funding. We get awards for how we spend our money and how conservative we are with our budgets. Three, reaching out for the CARES Act, additional funding to service and support technology during this time. All those together, along with the fiscal responsibility that the school has incorporated, has led us to a position that we only needed to raise 2.5% in a COVID year when many districts are in the opposite direction. So I think the question actually is the wrong question. It's more of a compliment to say, why do we only need to raise 2.5%? I'm proud of everything that we've done to achieve the fact that we've only raised it 2.5%.
Thank you. Barb?
Well, that's a hard act to follow. But I can tell you that COVID-19 is really something that is unknown. How long is it going to be here? How long is it going to, how much more money do we have to put out? But I do believe Big Lake School has always been really frugal when it comes to their funds. And so I would like to agree with that, but I also have to warn against the unknown of how long is this going to last. And so that would be my answer, is that I hope that you are absolutely right, and I hope that this is all, but as we look into the future, we do not know exactly. Right now we are actually, the increase, I looked about 2 weeks ago, we were at, in Sherburne County, we were at like 900, we're at 1,300 this last Friday, and I didn't look at it this Friday, this last Friday, but I know that it's on a huge increase. So we're still in this until it's over, and hopefully we'll find some way to fix this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Amber, for our next question will begin.
Okay.
For 30 seconds, while enrollment was fairly stable last year, this year we lost 78 students, and with them $700,000 in state funding. What thoughts do you have to attract and retain the numbers of the student body?
I think that this year was a unique year with COVID. I know that surrounding districts actually lost larger numbers than we did, and I think that because we were able to start an online program, we've already brought forth a unique plan. As I said earlier, we have a student all the way from St. Francis that has decided to open enroll, not amongst other school districts. So as we move forward with that online plan, I think that will help Big Lake continue to grow, along with the amazing teachers and staff that we have, and support from our community to move forward.
All right, thank you.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry. So with respect to enrollment, a couple things to think about with there. We are in an off year with COVID specifically. The other thing is the programs that we have in place to attract the students are one element of it. But another piece of it that we can't undermine and can't diminish is the draw that we have to this district with respect to our teaching power. If you think about it and compare it to other districts, when a position comes open in Big Lake with respect to teaching, we're flooded with people that want to be here. That speaks volumes.
Thank you, Barb.
I've talked to several parents that actually said that they did take their kids out of school because they have to work and they wanted to have some kind of security and put their kids in private school, which was, I just took a step back thinking, wow, that's got to be really hard on the kids, you know, because they had so many friends and stuff. So I guess I can't remember the last part or the question exactly, but you talked about the 700 kids, the students. Could you just repeat that real quick?
Yeah, the question, while enrollment was fairly stable, this year we lost 78 students and with it $700,000 in state funding. What thoughts do you have to attract and retain the numbers of the student body?
I know that I listened to the person that delivered some messages, who happened to be a student. She's the head of the student council, and she said that she would like to open up school and be there 24/7, but understands that she can't. And so I think that we have to encourage our community that this is working the best way that it can be in keeping our kids safe, and that as soon as we are able to open up, then we will.
Okay, thank you. Lori?
Big Lake has some amazing teachers and staff, as well as really unique programs to offer the students from all grades. I guess I would really rely on word of mouth from the students. The programs that they have, that they're enjoying, the different opportunities that they have to go to Wright Tech and various other places, that between that and the online school, that way may draw in some more students.
Okay, thank you. Tony, for our next question, we'll begin. For 30 seconds, what ideas do you have about our students being productive members of society?
It's a great question. So one of the things that I appreciate is all the different opportunities that Big Lake Schools offers to our kids and our students, and frankly, our community. So all those different opportunities really hone our kids. If you think about it, they're all running a little bit different race. And the fact that they have all the opportunities to really expand their network and their interests is what's creating the next generation of our leaders, the next generations of our workforce. So I guess I'll sum it up simply. All the opportunities we offer create a diverse group of student bodies that's going to go into the world and do great things.
All right, thank you. And Barb?
The one thing I love about Big Lake School District is that it has so much innovation. The innovation that the school has is really already in the community, where they're doing apprenticeships, they're bringing in businesses to talk to kids in school. And those are the things that are going to help our kids be more productive in society, because they're going to learn those extra things besides just reading, writing, arithmetic. And so that to me is very exciting about Big Lake School.
All right, thank you. Lori?
I would love to continue the collaboration that the school district has with the city, as far as our students working within our community, with different programs that we have where we integrate them into our organizations to teach them about community service, and just to continue growing that relationship.
All right, thank you. And Hannah?
So Big Lake Schools has utilized anywhere from the fire department with our elementary schools for a field trip to Wright Technical Center to teach our kids technical programs so they can go out and get a job right out of high school, earning more money. And so I think teaching our kids what the next step is in life, whether that's at the elementary level, the middle school level, or high school level, is what's going to make them better people out in our world. I also think that just the amazing teachers and staff that we have bring an element of support to our students to help them develop into great young people.
Okay, thank you. Barb, for a final question for this evening, we'll start with you. For your last minute, is there something else that you would like to tell us about yourself, your views, and specifically, why are you the best candidate for this office?
Thank you. As your candidate for Big Lake School Board, my focus will always be on your kids. Kids deserve a high-quality education. All kids need to be valued in our school and also in our community. Kids need supportive and understanding teachers and school administrators. Kids need hope and emotional support. Kids need normal. The reason I'm running for school board is because I care about your kids. Your kids will someday be our future leaders and employers and parents and teachers, police officers, mayors, commissioners, or the first female president of the United States of America from School District 727. As a leader, I am driven by policy and vision and goals and accountability, advocacy, ethics, and outcomes. These are the qualities necessary to govern on the Big Lake School Board. I ask for your vote, and the one thing that I'm going to leave in conclusion is that many of you need this answer because I know that it's on your mind. And yes, Officer Guy Chafee is my son. He's the oldest of my 3 boys who are now men like their father Ron. And that's what I want you to know about me. I have lived in Sherburne County for 30-some years and have lived in Big Lake Township for 10.
Well, I would like to start by thanking the Chamber, Gloria, Kevin, and Brad and Sue for your help here tonight. I guess the last thing that I would like to say is that I would like voters to know that I've lived in Big Lake for 34 years, and I'm very passionate about Big Lake as a community and the school district. I would like to develop further ways to integrate students into the community through more work experiences, as well as community organizations and local government. It's important to teach students to be involved in their community and to volunteer where they can make a difference. They are our future leaders. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Amber?
So while I will admit that public speaking is not my forte, I will say that I've worked really hard to improve the school and work for the students, the staff, and the community. I'm running for school board again because I believe in Big Lake schools and I believe in our community. We have amazing teachers, staff, and students, and over the past 23 years in Big Lake, I've become very invested in my community, and the heart of our community is our kids. Our schools help to develop our youth into strong and independent adults. And while Big Lake schools have been recognized in multiple ways for their efforts in education, we know there is always room for improvement, and I would work to continue the improvement of our schools, giving as much opportunity to youth as possible. I would really love to continue working towards making this the best place for all of our kids here at Big Lake schools. And also, I just wanted to thank the Chamber and Gloria and everyone else who helped put this together tonight. Thank you for doing that.
All right, thank you. Tony?
Thanks, Chamber. Thank you, Gloria. I appreciate everything as well. Being on the board for 8 years, it lines up really well with my core values, and it's important that everybody hear what they are. My family is number 1, integrity is number 2, and empathy is number 3. Those 3 core values line up really well with the discussions that I have with respect to the community members. And when I say community, I'm thinking of our parents, our students, and our teachers. I don't get a lot of calls specifically from the teachers or the parents or the students directly. What I do is I have conversations with them. I shift the conversation from a reactive, like I'm reacting to something that's coming my way, to more of a proactive approach in engaging the community through the discussions that I have. And I think it's important from a perspective that everybody understands that leaning in, that ability to communicate and talk and really understand some of the challenges that are out there and how that I can contribute to diminishing some of those challenges for certain families is a really important asset that I have that I bring. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes our race for school board. Our next race is Big Lake Township.
No, that's not. Congressional district, isn't it? So 8:30 to 8:50.
Everybody's sleeping in the township, so everybody's sleeping.
Well, We're staying. We're here.
He's preaching to the choir again.
Yeah.
Who's here from the township? I see Bruce. At least that Mark must be here. Do you see Judy?
We're ready for the township candidates. They're here.
Yeah, you did well. Is this recording still? Is this recording still? Yeah, I'll accept.
I'm sorry. Oh, is that right? Our timer stepped out for a moment, so we're just giving him a minute to get back to it. Did we do that? We'll get started. Our next race is Big Lake Township. Please welcome Bruce Obel, Dean Brentenson, Mark Hedstrom, and Eric Rosa. Judy Wilkes couldn't be here tonight, so I'll read her statement after the others answer the first two questions. Dean, we'll start with you for our first questions. For 30 seconds, briefly summarize your personal background and experiences and why you're running for the office of Big Lake Township Supervisor.
I'm Dean Brenneson. I've lived in the Big Lake area all my life. My wife and I have lived in Big Lake Township over 20 years. We have 3 sons, 2 daughter-in-laws, and 5 awesome grandchildren. I have worked in the excavation industry for nearly 50 years. My desire to serve and my career experience will be an asset as a Big Lake Township Supervisor.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
My name's Eric Rose. I grew up in Otsego. Went to Elk River High School and moved to Big Lake in 2012. A married father of 4. Worked at Wagner Spray Tech for 26 years, holding many positions. General Assembly, warehouse, group lead, and currently as a quality specialist. I enjoy camping, motorcycling, fishing, relaxing with my family. I'd like to become more involved in my community. My family and I call Big Lake our forever home, and we moved to, and I want to have more community involvement between the Big Lake Township and the Big Lake City, as we all call Big Lake home.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Hi, my name is Mark Hedstrom. I've lived in the township with my wife and 2 children for the last 16 years. I'm on my 8th year of the Big Lake School Board. I've served as the chair and the clerk. I serve on the Big Lake Fire Department now for the last 10 years. I'm currently the assistant chief. I also serve on the relief board as a president. I have served on the Big Lake PTO board and also this chamber's board. I was a board member and the president. I've helped coach Big Lake Baseball Association. I've served as an EMT for our football association and for the county fair. I've served as an election judge for the township and I regularly attend their meetings. I'm running to continue to serve the people of Big Lake Township. Our board does a pretty good job and I'd like to join that team to work to make it even better.
All right, thank you. And Bruce?
Hi, I'm Bruce Abel. I'm a lifelong resident of the area. I've got a family, my wife, myself, and our 4 children. We've still got 1 at home. And I've lived and worked in the area my entire life. I've enjoyed being a member of the Big Lake community, tried to help out in every way that I can. And serving on town board is just another way that I figure that I can help.
All right, thank you. For our second question, Eric, you'll take the first answer on this. For 60 seconds, what would be your top 2 or 3 priorities as a supervisor serving in the Big Lake Township?
Like I said in my opening statement, I'd like to get more involvement between the township and the city as we all share the same community. And I'd like to get involved with the other surrounding areas, or a township is one of them. And just having a new look into the township board would be my contribution. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Mark?
You know, after I announced I was running for supervisor, I was asked, what is a supervisor? I've been told that people didn't even know we had representation, and we do need to fix that. We need a better, up-to-date, user-friendly webpage. We need to stay active on social media, keep our residents informed on what's going on. We need to really review the process on how our road gets cleared, our roads get cleared. We've had several residents tell me that it's just not up to par right now. We shouldn't have buses getting stuck on our roads days after a snowfall. We need to keep our country feel and promote our industrial park and get those lots sold that we have. As I said, a township board is a good job, but there's always room for improvement. I feel with my board experience, I can help this township be even better with communication, transparency, and take a good look at the way decisions are made and make common sense decisions and not be afraid to look at other options.
All right, thank you. Bruce?
Question again, Kevin?
For 60 seconds, what would be your top 2 or 3 priorities as a supervisor serving the Big Lake Township?
Top priority is keeping our close to 80 miles of roads in good service, and that includes construction, rebuilding, ditches, snow removal, ice control. I believe that our main duty to the township is to take care of the roads and transportation needs so that people can move about, get on with their lives, and we stay out of their way. Another very crucial portion of the township governance is the partnership that Big Lake Township shares with the city of Big Lake in the fire department. The public safety is a huge issue, and keeping our area nice with orderly development, the proper zoning, and just the right type of growth like we already have. It's a wonderful place to live.
All right, thank you, indeed.
Because township roads are a major portion of the township budget, we need to continue to be diligent in monitoring our road conditions. The township has 80-plus miles of paved roads, and with the aging of these roads, there's always a need for asphalt patching, crack filling, seal coating, and overlay projects are needed to maintain safe driving conditions. With the cost of doing business continually changing, the township needs to use all its resources to spend responsibly, which is their normal practice. The Big Lake Fire Department, owned jointly by Big Lake Township and Big Lake City, is very important to the communities and the residents. We must ensure the firefighters have the best training and equipment. And for future development, the township needs to act responsibly, as always, ensuring the projects fit the needs of the community.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'll read the statements prepared for us by Judy Wilkes, who's not able to attend. For the first question, summarize your personal background and experiences and why you're running for the office of Township Supervisor. Her answer, I have been a resident taxpayer of and an agricultural retail small business owner within the township for 40 years. My spouse, Bob, a lifelong resident, and our 2 grown children are graduates of Big Lake High School. This is an opportunity to further connect with and serve the residents within our township. My background in business analysis, marketing and communications, along with small business ownership and serving on local government and nonprofit committees provides a well-rounded view of life within our community. The responses for the second question, what are your top 2 or 3 priorities as a township supervisor in the Big Lake area? 1, budgeted services. This has been a challenging year for all of us and may continue to be so in the years to come. So I want to focus on working within the township budget and thoroughly scrutinize all requests for levy increases. With that in mind, we do need to be able to continue to provide an appropriate level of service in regards to the 79 miles of roads needing maintenance and snow removal, the fire department, and support/maintenance of township property, including Lions Park, which is 51 acres. Second, township visibility. There is more activity and the town board is more involved with local and regional partnerships than when I covered the meetings as a reporter for the West Sherburne Tribune. I'd like to pursue an awareness campaign to make these activities more visible via the current township website and incorporate the use of social media such as Facebook, which would include highlighting events and meetings, especially the importance of the annual meeting where residents approve the tax levy for the following year. I would also like to explore opportunities where volunteers might provide value to services provided within the township, such as Lions Park and/or on partnership subcommittees. For our third question, Mark, we'll have you start this one. Big Lake Township has the largest population and the highest number of roads among the townships in Sherburne County, with its preliminary 4.5% tax levy increase in 2021 compared to the 9.5% increase in 2020. Please share your thoughts in the next minute on roads and their maintenance in Big Lake Township.
That's a good question. That's something that always concerned me. Obviously, I've lived in Big Lake for the last 16 years, and our roads is obviously one of our biggest expenditures, right? So we got to make sure that they're kept up to speed. We got to make sure that they're maintained. And I don't know if it's been done on a really how do I want to say this? On a focused basis. You know, I know they drive around, they have their road tour, whatever it may be, but I think we're getting to the point where they are starting to deteriorate faster, and we really need to make sure that these things are maintained and maintained properly. So that would definitely be a focus on something I want to make sure that we're looking at, and we're looking at all options, not just the same person that we use all the time. We need to look outside the box a little bit and look at all entities.
All right, thank you. And Bruce?
Township roads are the 800-pound gorilla in our budget. These township roads get different service and different traffic. They all experience garbage trucks, school buses, cement trucks, drywall trucks. All these bigger trucks come through these development areas, and they are hard on roads. Some of the roads are reaching their lifespan, approximately 20 years, but there's no set pattern of how they're addressed by age. Our board goes out and does road tours to assess every mile of every road and assign the proper maintenance for that road for that season. The road tour is done twice a year, and roads do get put on a clock, so to say, but most importantly is their current condition, and that's how we prioritize the maintenance and upkeep of our roads.
All right, thank you, Dean.
And the roads are the biggest portion of the township budget. Big Lake was probably one of the first townships to proactively, 20 years ago or more, to start paving all of the roads within the township. And with that, it has now come where the roads are starting to field aware of all the heavy traffic, buses, construction, all that sort of thing. So it's something that we have to keep up with on a yearly basis to make sure that the roads do not completely fall apart, but that we be responsible and keep them up into the best condition possible for safe driving. Thank you.
Okay. And Eric?
Like everyone says, it's the most in the budget for the township. Living in my development, the hills are quite large and the snow removal is a little delayed in our neighborhood. So I think a big part of maintaining the roads is early snow removal and adequate snow removal. So the snow removal will be one of my biggest things, and the road tours are a good way to see what the actual condition of the road is. You can't necessarily just say every 20 years or every 10 years we're going to replace this section of road based on its traffic. It may not need it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For our next question, Bruce will start. The township has had new developments in the past several years. For the next minute, share your thoughts on how the township has handled this growth and your ideas for the future.
Township has worked hand in hand with the county, Sherburne County, on planning and zoning. The development that's gone on through our township has all been quite pleasing. The developments are well maintained. The property values are very nice properties. We don't see much trouble in developing, except that there has been a slowdown in new platting and lots being developed. With that slowdown, the inventory is going down. The development that will follow is based on the market. Whatever the developers can sell, they will. They benefit from a larger floor plan, but our economy dictates the size of properties being developed and how they're done. We at the township are charged with that orderly development, and we'll do the best we can.
All right, thank you, Dee.
That is the one good thing about Big Lake Township. It's a very desirable place to live, being close to the city, and that's why over the years there's been quite a few housing developments. But with the economic stress that has happened over the past years, things have slowed down. But I think we'll continue to be able to have new developments coming in, probably not at the pace that we were once used to, but with the township reviewing and going all over the developments, I think we'll continue to have success.
All right, thank you. Eric?
Can you do the question again, Kevin?
The question, the township has had new developments in the past several years. For the next minute, share your thoughts on how the township has handled this growth and your ideas for the future.
In driving around the township, I see a lot of the developments. I like that it's still the country feel. The lots are a little bit in the larger side. We're not cramming a bunch of houses into small lots. I'd like to see that progress continue, and I think the development box has been well maintained, and I look forward to continuing that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark.
I think it's been handled very well by our township. They've done a good job of keeping our 2.5 acre lots is kind of what has always been the goal. I do think we do need to promote Big Lake Township more. We need to attract builders and developers to come to Big Lake, because we do have a great township here. It's a beautiful place to live, and we need to do a better job in promoting that, again, by using technology, getting our website up to date, having a Facebook page so people can come and say, hey, I want to move to Big Lake, that's where I want to go. You want people to come to Big Lake, you gotta show them something. And people use technology for that, and we need to use that advantage that what we have. We got lots of good places to live out there, and we need to, again, focus on selling Big Lake Township to bring in these next level properties, step up properties, so they can move out of the city and come up to Big Lake.
All right, thank you. Dean, we'll start with you on this one again. For 30 seconds, do you support the funding of both the police and fire departments for personnel needs to keep them moving forward and give the citizens the level of service they deserve?
Absolutely. I think public safety is a priority in our communities, both the city and the township. Our residents deserve top-notch service, so yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. And Eric?
As a member of the Big Lake Fire Department, I support the funding of the fire department and the police department. However, I want to make sure it's done in a fiscal responsible way, not just because. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep, also I've been serving on the Big Lake Fire Department now for 10 years. We've been blessed by the township and the city taking care of our needs. Generally, if we show a need, the township and the city has given us what we needed. Of course, I support the police department also. It goes hand in hand. Public safety is everything when it comes to the safety of our community.
Thank you.
The most valuable part of our fire department is the personnel. We can buy trucks, we can heat buildings, we can do anything, but without the personnel, we are sunk. We have a great fire department. Our policing is handled through Sherburne County in conjunction with the agreements with the city of Big Lake. It's a first responder. Oftentimes it's who gets there first. And so we are well served by our fire department, well served by our police departments. Funding should stay at levels they're currently at.
Okay, very good. For the final question, I will read the response from Judy first as a closing. Then we're going to begin with Eric. Okay, after this one, so I'm going to read the response now. For your last question, is there anything else you would like to tell us about yourself, your views, and why are you the best candidate for this office? And Judy's response is, I've lived, worked, raised a family, and paid taxes as both a resident and business owner in this township, and would like to see others become more interested in becoming involved with and getting to know their hometown. And Eric?
Serving on the fire department is been a very rewarding job for me. I'd like to continue to serve my community. This is my forever home, and I'd like to intermingle more with Big Lake City and Big Lake Township as a one community. And I think someone who's coming in new to the game is going to bring in some different viewpoints and ask why more often, because I haven't just been doing the same thing for the last number of years. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mark?
I feel I'm the best candidate for the township because I really just love to serve the people. I have board experience, I'm out in the community and listen to concerns of our residents. I make my decisions based on facts, common sense, and what's really best for the township. I feel I can help make an impact by promoting our township, make better use of technology, and find more ways to get our residents involved. We're all in this together. My name is Mark Hedstrom. I appreciate your vote for Big Lake Township Supervisor seat number 4. I also want to thank the Chamber for inviting all of us here tonight. This has been very informative. I'm sure that everybody is going to be listening and making decisions, and I'm just glad that this particular forum is here so that we can actually speak to all of you out there. So thanks, Gloria. Thanks, Kevin. You guys done a great job.
All right, thank you. Bruce?
A few years ago, I was approached and asked to join the board. I was an appointee to a vacant seat. Since that time, those board members who were serving were kind enough and so full of information that I've learned an awful lot in the time I've been there. The reason I consider myself a good candidate for the board is this is home. I have no plans on being anywhere else, and I'd like to do the best job that I can to keep my home a nice place.
All right, thank you. Dean?
My career started in Big Lake with my father, uncle, and brothers. Part of our work was with townships and cities, and that included building roads, road maintenance, and snow plowing. I also worked for other excavation contractors as field superintendent, project manager, and business development. I feel this experience will be an asset to the township for road projects and maintenance. The business experience and knowledge of equipment will help with the fire department. Adding the business development background, I feel I can add value to future development projects. This is why I feel I'm the best candidate for Big Lake Township supervisor position. And I'd like to thank the chamber for giving us the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. That concludes our race for Big Lake Township. Our final race for the evening, the candidates could not be here. Both, however, have submitted videos. So for U.S. Congressional District 6, which includes all of Sherburne, Wright, and Benton counties, eastern Stearns County, most of Anoka and Carver counties, and part of Hennepin and Washington counties, Congressman Tom Emmer and DFL candidate Tanya Zaradka couldn't be here tonight. Both have submitted videos for our review. We will first see the video for Tanya. Tanya.
In the past 4 years, America has been forced to look at ourselves in the mirror. We cannot fully overcome this time of crisis without recognizing and acknowledging the true nature of our country's history. America was great for some, but it was not great for the poor, the handicapped, people of color, asylum seekers, and unprotected workers laboring in unsafe conditions. Disenfranchised people represent a disproportionate block of our America, and it's time we make equal opportunity more than just a slogan. America has long been, in spite of our growing pains and flaws, a symbol of hope to a world who right now needs hope more than anything. I am running for the United States Congress to tip the balance back to progress, not regression, to hope, not depression. I want to be your voice, your advocate in Congress, for all that propels us forward and against all that would hold America back. I want our farmers to feel secure and bold while incorporating technologies of the future. I want our children to feel the safety that is our duty to provide them. Our elders to feel protected and cherished after a lifetime of caring for others. It's past time for women to be paid the same money as men, and affordable daycare and meaningful health care should be a right, not a privilege for the wealthy. Sometimes people who work hard achieve prosperity. Sometimes they don't. The scales don't always weigh evenly, but should the scales be blatantly unbalanced as a result of corrupt leadership putting their foot on the edge of the side that needs assistance the least? I don't think so. My name is Tanya Zaradka, and I'm asking for your vote. I am uncorrupted, and I vow to always tell you the truth. I am here to fight for those who have been forgotten by the powers that be. May God bless our troops, and may God bless America.
Thank you, and now our video from Tom.
Congressman Thomas. I'm sorry I'm not able to join you today, but I'd like to thank Gloria and everyone in the Big Lake Chamber of Commerce for pulling this forum together and allowing me to share a short message with all of you. I have the privilege of representing Minnesota's 6th Congressional District of Congress, and I'm asking for your support on November 3rd to continue working for you in Washington, D.C. Prior to the COVID pandemic, our country enjoyed historic growth and a renewed sense of confidence as our economy brought hope and prosperity to every corner of Minnesota. When the pandemic hit, both parties worked to pass the CARES Act in an effort to help businesses of all sizes survive this unforeseen pandemic. Our office connected with hundreds of families, businesses, and employees in Big Lake and throughout Sherwood County to provide tools and resources and information on how to best weather the ongoing crisis. There's still much to be done, but we are on our way back, and the best is yet to come. While the race to find a cure for COVID remains paramount, there are several priorities beyond the pandemic I'm working on to improve the lives of all Minnesotans. For example, our office has worked very closely with the Department of Transportation Secretary Chao over the last 2 years to secure more than $50 million in federal funding for infrastructure projects that will significantly impact the Big Lake community. These infrastructure investments to Highways 10 and 169 will have a major effect on our district's continued economic growth and success. These efforts, paired with our work to improve access to broadband and complete the last mile of infrastructure service, will bring innovations like telehealth and online education to individuals in desperate need. We're also working to reshape our workforce, encouraging students to look beyond traditional four-year universities and explore opportunities in agriculture or a skilled trade. Prioritize federal funding for rural mental health services and working to eliminate arbitrary barriers to mental health treatments and care. Work with law enforcement, not against, to improve relationships they build in the communities they serve. And perhaps most importantly, get control of federal spending and ease the financial burden future generations will face. I have to continue to oppose bloated omnibus spending bills that seek to further political ambitions rather than prioritize the expenditure of taxpayers' hard-earned money. Again, I want to thank everyone in the Big Lake Chamber for hosting this forum, and I'd like to thank all of you in attendance for your continued support. I hope we can continue to work together as we move into a new session of Congress and continue to bring our Midwestern conservative values to Washington. Thank you.
Thank you. In closing, on behalf of the Big Lake Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we thank the candidates and all of you for coming tonight and listening and or watching this recording. Especially, I'd like to thank the people still in the auditorium, your marathoners. We thank the Sherburne Wright Cable Commission for videotaping the forum, Big Lake Schools for hosting the forum. Thanks to one of our newest members, Style Catering, for coffee and cookies, and to Carousel Works for the stage decor. And a big thank you to the volunteers who helped during this event. Good night, and remember to vote on November 3rd. Thank you.